Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog podcast. This time, talking about the brand new Paul McGann series, Doom Coalition 3. Now, as always, this is a boxed set, because Paul McGann's Doctor doesn't get to be part of the main range, at least not until there's, well, more decisions made at Big Finish Towers. But because Paul McGann's not part of the main range, he gets to have a narrative that's different. Well, a narrative structure. I mean, let's face it, we've always got beginnings, middles, ends, and we've always got big story arcs, and let's face it, they're all called the Doom Coalition. Though why it's called that is still a little bit beyond me, but I'm quite willing to go with that. That's not a problem. No, the reason that I bring up the fact that this is a different style of narrative is because of what happens in, well, story number 1. Yes, this will be spoiler-free, but bear with me. Story number 1 has, if it was part of the main range and it was an individual release, what I could only describe as a slightly disappointing payoff. But obviously it leads into episodes, well, part 2, part 3, part 4, and narratively speaking, it pays off in spades. But if you'd shelled out your cash and you'd got just that part of the story, then you'd go, oh, right. And you'd probably go, well, it's not much of a cliffhanger, but it's not meant as a cliffhanger. It's meant as something you go, oh, right, and it takes you on and spins its wonderful web around you. Because let's face it, the Doom Coalition stories are just exquisite. The standard of acting is beyond anything we could possibly have hoped for, and it's definitely beyond anything you're seeing on TV. Let's face it, this year, in the year without TV Doctor Who, a steady outpouring of, well, let's face it, you get 13 main range stories, you get at least 2, probably 4 boxed sets, and of course you've got the 4th Doctor adventures as well, and they're usually about 8 stories long each. Given that some of those are multi-parters, let's call that 6 stories, and I'm not even going to bother counting the other things that come out around Doctor Who, you know, the companion chronicles and short trips and things like that. So all in all, you've got about 22 Doctor Who stories per year coming out from Big Finish. Now, even when Doctor Who's on TV, they're only bringing us 13, 12, possibly 14 stories, depending on what mood they're in. There's always going to be more output from Big Finish, and you would think that would water down the quality, because let's face it, Doctor Who is now, if you want to look at it that way, an audio medium. There are more stories in existence on audio than there ever were in TV. And Big Finish has made it its own. Doom Coalition has proven to us time and time again how brilliant the 8th Doctor is, and Helen Sinclair and Liv Chenka are brilliant. The pairing of 2 female companions is something that you just don't see very often, and it works. Oh, how it works so well. They are incredibly well-defined characters and incredibly well acted, and story-wise, well, they're given stuff to do that you just don't get to see. These characters are literally given time to breathe and see the world anew. Liv's had a brilliant arc, and yet every time we see her, we learn more. This is what character development truly should be about. Now, we've got characters who are the Clockmaker, who's quite clearly the villain. Now, in the trailer, it does sound like Paul Darrow. It's not. But that's not a problem. I'm sure we can have Paul Darrow turn up at some point being someone else, unless somebody's ever going to get around to doing that Blake 7 Doctor Who crossover. They might. You just don't know. Our story opens with us trying to get to Gallifrey and ending up in the 90s on Earth, in England. Of course it is. There's interference with our own timelines. In fact, interference with timelines and anchored moments in history, let's not call them fixed points, is at the very core of this kind of story. It moves on. It moves on to various different locations, including ancient Prague, fairly modern Italy, and the reign of Henry VIII. Yes, for all of those people recently listening to Radio Free Skaro, this is a story set in that period. And the Eighth Doctor just works. Thomas Cromwell makes a massive appearance here, and of course he's voiced by one of the greatest voices in England, but we'll leave it there. We've got multiple storylines happening across time periods. Again, this is the sort of thing that we could only have on audio. Because we've paid our money, we're going to give our attention, we're going to concentrate. This just works. Yes, you can have that sort of thing hinted at on TV, but here, or in a novel, this is where the investiture by the listener, by the reader, gets going. This is where we've given ourselves over to the narrative, and it's so worth it. The payoff is just great. Of course, episode 1 has got the greatest character moments, but that doesn't distract from the other 3 stories, which of course give you just great narrative. Yes, Doctor Who had a lot of running up and down corridors on TV, and yes, there's always people who can't see what's going on, but there's a character, an alien race, a brand new one who appears here, who should only ever exist in your imagination, because, believe me, to imagine them is to see them, and to see them would be wonderful. I don't even want to tell you what they are for spoilers. Yes, the 11 is an incredible villain. Yes, you will let things develop. And yes, characters with certain names are very obvious, but you know what? That's what we're in it for. We're in it for the adventure, for the discovery, for the investigation, and that's what works. I don't want to give you any spoilers, but what I do want to say is that this is simply brilliant. I cannot wait for the next part. And as for the cliffhanger at the end of part 4, oh, March cannot come soon enough, because that's when we get the next section of Doom Coalition, and believe me, this has been a cohesive, incredibly good box set. So if you've ever liked the Eighth Doctor, this is for you. Yes, it might be part 3, and yes, the characters would be not confusing, but you'd get so much more of a payoff if you owned box sets 1 and 2. So Doom Coalition, yes, you know you like it, and if ever you like the Eighth Doctor, this is for you. So rather than listen to me prattle on and saying how great something is, just go away and listen, because it is great. And you will enjoy it. So until next time, when I'll probably be talking about Doctor Who, be seeing you.
It is time to complete my masterpiece. Time to start the countdown. Until Doomsday.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions. Doctor Who, Doom Coalition 3.
The archives were the most highly secured place on Gallifrey. Probably even more so now after what happened last time.
What happened last time?
The 11 happened.
Threads in the web of time are being unpicked by whatever this is. They're in flux, but only in relation to one another.
Hear that fizzing noise? That's my brain.
Ah, don't worry, Liv. I have a 7th sense for this kind of business.
In the name of King Henry, I demand that you identify yourselves.
Intent hostile. Threat will be neutralized. None will stand in our way.
I'm Ruth, Helen's daughter.
Her daughter? Supervilcom.
Superville? Well, that hardly sounds like an evil organisation.
What the devil?
A devil? Not today, Thomas. Today I'm your guardian angel.
I am the clocksmith. I am an artist, and I am everywhere.
Time Lords. Honestly, you spend your whole life believing there's only one left, then they start turning up like buses.
Big Finish. We love stories.
I've never seen it, but this must be what happens. What happens when? When he regenerates.
That was the Doctor Who Tin Dog Podcast. Available on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, RSS, Vimeo, and across the internet. Doctor Who and its associated properties are all copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Why not become a supporter by visiting patreon.com/tindog. Contact the show on tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.